My name is Jessalyn Holodinsky, and I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Community Health Sciences here at the University of Calgary, and I research the pre-hospital transport of stroke patients. I think that being a researcher means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but me coming from the sciences, being a researcher means to me is it means that you like to tackle really hard problems and think about ways to solve them. So designing a research question is the first thing you're going to do in your research practice, and that means it's the most important thing you're going to do in your research practice, because designing a good question is going to frame all of the work that you do subsequent to that. So for example, the research question I designed about where to transport stroke patients, that has been underlying 4 years of research work that followed it. So making a good question up front sets you up for success in the end. I think about designing a research question in the same way that you might think about designing a SMART goal. I'm sure that you've probably heard of the SMART acronym before. So first of all, your research question should be specific. It's not enough just to ask, maybe is one medication better than another? You need to get right down to the nuts and bolts. What does better actually mean? And then going on with that, whatever your outcome is, you have to make sure that you can actually measure it. And just because you have to measure it, that doesn't mean you have to be dealing with numbers. Remember that qualitative data or people's life experience, that's something you can measure too. A is for, is it something that's actually answerable? Sometimes you can pose a question that's not answerable because you just don't have the data out there to be able to come to the answer that you want. And then R is what I think is the most important, and that's, is it relevant? So the question can be relevant to society at large, it can be relevant to your field of study or relevant to your lab group, but what's most important is that the question is relevant to you. Because research is a long and hard process. It's a very rewarding process, but it is long and hard, and it's much easier to go through it if you actually really enjoy the question you're trying to answer. And then finally, T is for time. Do you actually have the time needed to answer this question? As again, research can be a long process, and some questions take longer to answer than others. So when you're thinking about how much time you have available to you, make sure that the scope of your question matches the time frame you have to answer it. We have to expand our knowledge outside the university walls, so it's really important that we can translate the research we do into the university out into the public so that the public can be aware of these new innovations that are happening too.